So if you're online at all, you've heard this term flying around, AGI, artificial general intelligence. It is absolutely everywhere. But the version of AGI that you see on the internet, well, it usually looks like something straight out of a movie. This single world-changing event that's just around the corner. The reality? Yeah, it's a lot more complicated and honestly, a lot less dramatic.
You know the drill. You've seen these archetypes. AGI is either going to be this digital god that solves all of our problems, or a demon that's going to end humanity, or it's just this ticking clock that we're all hurtling towards. And look, it makes for great headlines, but it's almost entirely hype. Okay, so in this explainer, we're just going to strip all of that away. We're going to cut through the fear, the bad metaphors, and those crazy speculative timelines to get to the real technical idea that's sitting at the heart of AGI. And that's really where the whole misunderstanding kicks off. You've got social media posts, sensational headlines, viral videos. They've all created this fundamental misunderstanding. They've taken a pretty dry research term and wrapped it up in a bunch of science fiction, making it sound like human-like consciousness or some kind of apocalyptic event. But that's just not what the term actually means. So what does AGI actually mean to the researchers who are, building it? Let's start with the name itself. It stands for Artificial General Intelligence. Now, the first two words, artificial and intelligence, they're pretty clear. But that middle word, general, that's where all the trouble begins. It's the source of pretty much all the confusion. Let's be super clear. In a technical context, general does not mean any of these things. It's not a synonym for conscious, it definitely doesn't mean it's emotional or human, and it really has nothing to do with self-awareness. These are all the qualities the hype machine just loves to latch onto, but they are not part of the core technical definition. So if it's not all that, what is it? Well, to researchers, general simply describes a system that is broad and flexible, one that can learn in different areas, take what it learned from one task and apply it to another, and adapt to totally new problems without needing to be retrained from scratch. Think less of a hyper-specialist and more of a really good all-around problem solver. And to make this even clearer, let's put the goal of AGI side by side with the incredibly powerful AI systems we already have today. Look, the AI we have today, it is mind-blowing. But it operates in these really narrow, carefully defined lanes. It responds to what we ask it. It doesn't really go off and initiate tasks on its own. And that's why it can feel both super impressive and weirdly fragile at the same time. Like, it'll outperform a human on one specific thing and then totally fail at another task that seems trivial to us. The goal of AGI is to close that gap, not to make it human, but to make it way more flexible and robust.
Okay, and all of this, it naturally leads to the one big question, the one that everybody asks about AGI.
Right? This one. When's it gonna get here? This is the question that fuels all those countdown clocks and those wild predictions you see online. But here's the thing. The question itself is kind of broken. Here's probably the most important thing to get about all of this. AGI isn't a light switch that's just gonna flip on one day. It's not some event with an arrival date. It's so much better to think of it as a slope, just a gradual, continuous increase in what AI systems can do.
And this slope is a really useful way to picture the whole thing. We started way down at the bottom with narrow AI. Those were just specialist tools built for one single job. Now we've kind of moved up to broad AI, systems that can handle multiple different tasks. The next steps that researchers are tackling are flexible AI, stuff that can adapt without a full retraining. And then, way up the slope, you've got autonomous AI that can reason over long-term goals. The point is, we are already on the slope.
And that is exactly why you hear these crazy, conflicting timelines. When one expert says AGI is decades away and another says it's just a few years off, they're not necessarily contradicting each other. They're just drawing the line for what they personally consider AGI at totally different points on this slope. So because we're so obsessed with this fictional arrival date and all these sci-fi scenarios, we often end up worrying about completely the wrong kind of risks.
The hype machine, it screams about a rogue robot takeover. But the real tangible risks, they're actually a lot more boring, and they are here right now. We're talking about things like misaligned corporate incentives that push for speed over safety, the rushed deployment of systems we don't fully get, how uneven access to this tech could make inequality way worse, and, our own laws and institutions just being way too slow to keep up.
And this is a really key point. An AI does not need to be conscious or self-aware to be massively disruptive. It just needs to be faster than a human, cheaper than a human, and widely deployed. That's it. That's the formula for profound economic and societal change, and it has absolutely nothing to do with sci-fi consciousness. So, what all this means is that we really need to reframe this entire conversation. We should probably stop arguing about labels and deadlines and instead focus on the transition that is actually happening right now. The real tipping point, the one that's going to affect every single one of us, isn't when some system finally meets an arbitrary definition of AGI. No, it's when AI stops being a tool that you actively use and becomes invisible infrastructure, cheap, integrated, and just baked into how everything works.
And that's really the heart of it. By the time we're all standing around arguing about whether a system officially counts as AGI, the world might have already changed around us. This transition from tool to infrastructure, that is the thing that truly matters. This shift fundamentally changes our relationship with technology. The conversation stops being about capabilities, wow, can AI do this amazing new thing? And it becomes about adaptation. Okay, it's here now. How do we organize our society around it?
So after you strip away all of that hype, you realize we've been asking the wrong question all along. The timing of some label is just a distraction from the real story.
The question that really truly matters isn't when will AGI arrive? It's am I paying attention while the ground is slowly moving beneath my feet? See, AGI isn't a sudden earthquake, it's a gradual, often quiet tectonic shift. And the real challenge isn't to predict the final moment, but to actually notice the movement that's happening right now.